I didn't lose my wife the day she died. I lost her much earlier, I just didn't realize at the time. We lived together for decades without betrayals and major scandals, but the intimacy between us gradually disappeared. I was sure that if I was there, if I provided, if I didn't destroy anything, that was enough. I was wrong. I only realized it when nothing could be changed. My name is Robert Hale. I am 73 years old, and this is my story. Goodbye.
This is Robert Hale. He is 73 years old. He reached out to us after a previous video that had an unexpectedly big reaction. But he didn't tell us everything then. There is a part of this story that he had kept quiet about for a long time. It was the part that completely changed his view of relationships. Robert had been married for 41 years. To many people, that already sounds like proof of a successful marriage. Longer than some of you have lived. And for most of that time, he sincerely believed that their relationship was good. Not perfect, but strong. Peaceful. The kind that stays in for a long time. He always emphasizes, they hardly fought. There was no drama in their home, no loud conflicts or betrayals. They built a life together, step by step. From the outside, it looked like stability. Like something reliable. But there is one thing that is rarely talked about when it comes to long marriages. You can live with someone for decades and never really get to know them. You can share a bed, a house, and a daily routine, and still be strangers to the things that matter most. Robert's wife, Margaret, died 6 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. Diagnosed in March. She was gone in July. For months, from normal life to the end. In those last weeks, when she was in hospice, she said one thing to him. A thing he returns to every day. She said they spent too much time trying to be right instead of being close. Robert didn't understand what she meant then. His first reaction was defensiveness. How could we have wasted our time? Wasn't their marriage good? They weren't living in constant tension. They were comfortable with each other. They had built a life. But that, he later realized, was the problem. They were convenient. And convenience is not the same as connection. After that phrase, Robert tried for a long time to convince himself that she was exaggerating. There had been no catastrophes in their lives. They hadn't destroyed each other. They had just been living. That's what he called it then. But over time, he began to remember the little things. Things that had seemed unimportant before. Margaret often suggested doing something together. Not big events, simple, almost everyday things. Signing up for pottery classes. Going to dances, like she used to. Just sitting around longer in the evenings and talking, without the TV and without rushing. Every time, Robert had an explanation. He was tired after work. He wasn't in the mood. It seemed inconvenient or inappropriate. Sometimes, unnecessary expenses. He didn't refuse abruptly. He just postponed. Not today. Not now. Maybe later. He didn't consider it a problem. On the contrary, he was sure that he was acting wisely. In his mind, love was built on big, obvious things. Being there in difficult times. Providing for the home. Not cheating. Not disappearing. He sincerely thought that was enough. But he didn't notice the other thing. What were little things to him were attempts to maintain a connection to Margaret. Love is not just about crises and commitments. It lives in small, almost imperceptible moments. In conversations over breakfast. In spontaneous walks. In a sincere interest in how the other person's day was. Robert stopped doing this at more than one point. It happened slowly. So slowly that he himself didn't notice when he stopped really listening. One missed conversation was easily replaced by another. One, "I'm tired," became a habit. And, "We'll still have time," gradually lost its meaning. He was sure that there was enough time. That all these things could be done later. He didn't realize that at that very moment, that later was already starting to disappear. Over time, Margaret stopped proposing. It wasn't a decision made overnight. She just gradually stopped. At first less often. Then almost completely. She no longer asked him to dance. She didn't insist on doing things together. She didn't return to the conversations that used to be important to her. Robert noticed this, but he didn't attach much importance to it. It seemed to him that she was simply adapting. She found her own interests. She began to live a slightly more separate life. He didn't have the feeling that something was going wrong. On the contrary, the house became calmer. Fewer requests. Less tension. Fewer situations in which something had to be decided or changed. Margaret found her friends. Her own activities. Her own rhythm. Robert took this as a sign of maturity. He believed that this is what a long-term relationship looks like. Two people who respect each other's personal space and don't demand too much. From the outside, everything looked correct. They were polite. They took care of each other in everyday things. They shared responsibilities. But there were almost no conversations between them in which anyone really tried to be heard. Robert says that at some point they became more like neighbors than a couple. They lived in the same house, slept in the same bed, but each was immersed in his own inner world. He either did not notice it or considered it inevitable. He convinced himself that this was normal. That passion always fades. That habit is just another form of love. Comfort seemed safe. It did not require effort. It did not create conflicts. But it was in this comfort that what had previously united them gradually disappeared. No quarrels. No betrayals. No sharp moments that could make you stop and think. Robert lived with the feeling that everything was going his way. He saw no reason to change anything. And he didn't notice that the connection between them was slowly fading. When Margaret got sick, everything changed dramatically. What had seemed like an abstract, later, for years suddenly had clear boundaries. A deadline appeared. What had been postponed for months and years could no longer be postponed. The diagnosis was made in the spring. By the summer, it became clear that there was almost no time left. The transition was too fast, from ordinary life to hospitals, procedures, and hospice. Robert says that it was during this period that they began to speak truly honestly for the first time in a long time. In these conversations, Margaret said many things that he had not heard before. She spoke of dreams that she had given up, of desires that gradually ceased to seem possible, of the feeling that over the years she had become almost invisible in her own marriage. Not because of anger or conflict, but because of a constant lack of attention. A few weeks before her death, she remembered one specific thing. The trip she had dreamed of for years. Ireland. Places connected to her family. Small towns, the coast, the landscapes she wanted to see not as a tourist, but as a person searching for her roots. She said she had mentioned this trip more than once. And each time she had heard the same answers. Expensive. Not the time. Maybe later. They never went. And now they never would. Robert expected to hear anger or reproach. But there was none. She spoke calmly. Almost detachedly. As if she had long accepted the fact that it would not happen. It was this calm tone that was most painful for him. He asked why she had never insisted. Why she had not made him agree. And then Margaret said the phrase that finally put everything in its place. She did not want to force. She wanted him to want it himself. Not out of obligation. Not out of pity. But because it was important to her. In that moment, Robert realized for the first time that it wasn't about the money or the time. Or even the trip itself. It was about not wanting to share what mattered to another person. After Margaret's death, Robert was left alone. The people around him tried to support him. They said he was a good man. That he did everything right. That he was reliable, faithful, present. They had good intentions. But over time, he realized that these words did not bring him relief. After some time, he found her diary. She had kept it for years. Reading these entries was harder than any conversation they had ever put off. On the pages was a person with whom he had lived most of his life, but whom he had never fully known. She wrote about loneliness. About the feeling that she was speaking into the void. About the small moments that hurt her. About situations when he was physically there but emotionally absent. About the evenings when he chose work or the phone over talking. About the hope that the man she had once married would come back. She also wrote about love. Not with bitterness. Without accusations. Rather with an expectation that gradually weakened. Robert says that the most painful thing was the realization. He was there all this time, but he could just as well have been somewhere else. Over the years, he has come to understand one thing. Relationships rarely break up because of big mistakes. They disappear because of small, almost imperceptible indifference. Because of the confidence that the other person will always be there. Because of the habit of putting off the important until later. Robert says that he lived with Margaret for 41 years. And for at least half of that time he was comfortable but not involved. Right but not close. Present but not really there. He still thinks about Ireland. About how little it cost to agree. A little time. A little money. And how much it would have meant to her. That trip never happened. Like so many of the conversations he put off. Robert doesn't tell this story to evoke pity. He tells it because he now knows, love is not a state or a guarantee. It's a daily choice to be attentive. To be curious. To listen. To notice. He lives with the realization that he had everything he needed for intimacy. And he lost it not in one moment, but gradually. Day by day. Through neglect that seemed insignificant. But turned out to be decisive.